I was rinsing a coffee mug in my apartment sink when my phone started vibrating against the counter. It was early evening. The light outside had already turned that dull gray that makes everything look flatter than it is. I almost let it go to voicemail. When I saw my dad's name, I dried my hands and answered. His voice was thin, not weak exactly, just stretched. "Don't hang up," he said quietly. In the background, I could hear my mom talking fast, the way she does when she's anxious, words bumping into each other, a cabinet door closing too hard. "Your sister says the bank can take the house," he went on. "She says it's because of you. I don't remember what I signed." Outside, someone down the block set off a leftover firework. It cracked once and faded. I kept my voice steady. "Put me on speaker," I said. "And don't sign anything else, not one page." He swallowed. I could hear it. "They're coming tomorrow," he said, "to change the locks." I didn't react the way I used to. No raised voice, no rush of panic. I just leaned back against the counter and let the words settle, because I already knew when this really started. It started 7 days earlier, on a Monday morning, while my coffee was still half poured. My mom had texted at 7:08 a.m. "Don't come for Thanksgiving this year. We're keeping it small." Thanksgiving in our family had never been small. It was folding tables in the den. It was my dad checking the thermostat every 20 minutes. It was my mom counting chairs twice. It was my older sister, Melissa, standing near the oven giving instructions like she owned the house. I stared at the message longer than I should have. "Small?" I typed back. "You said everyone was coming." The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, came back. "This year is about your sister. Don't make it complicated. No apology, no explanation, just a decision." Before I could respond, another message came through. "Melissa, don't come. Guest list is final, clean, polite, absolute." Melissa is 3 years older than me. Growing up, she was emotional, dramatic, the one who needed rescuing. I was the quiet one, the reliable one, the one who didn't cause trouble. When Melissa crashed her car in college, my parents called it bad luck. When I got a scholarship out of state, my mom called it abandonment. When Melissa's business failed, my dad co-signed a loan without hesitation. When I asked for help with my first apartment deposit, he told me, "You're the steady one. You'll manage." So when they told me not to come for Thanksgiving, I didn't argue. I set my phone down. If I went, I would be the tension at the table. If I stayed away, everything would look calm. I opened my laptop and pulled up an email I had ignored for almost a year. A transfer offer. My company had asked me to relocate to oversee a struggling regional office in another state. I'd always said no. I told myself my parents were getting older, that Melissa needed support, that loyalty mattered. That morning, I clicked reply. I accept. The decision felt clean, clear, almost quiet. By noon, I had spoken to my supervisor. By late afternoon, HR sent relocation documents. That night, I packed 2 suitcases and the one framed family photo I kept mostly out of habit. No one called. No one asked why I hadn't pushed back about Thanksgiving. The next morning, I drove out before sunrise. Frost across the windshield. Radio low. I told myself this was healthy. That distance would help. But somewhere past the state line, I realized something simple. They hadn't uninvited me to keep the peace. They'd uninvited me because I asked questions. And now, 1 week later, my dad was on the phone telling me someone was coming to change the locks on the house he'd lived in for 32 years. "Start from the beginning," I said calmly. "What did you sign?" There was shuffling, paper moving across a table. "Melissa brought a folder," he said, "and a man in a blazer. She said it was routine, power of attorney, in case something happened." My shoulders stayed relaxed. My voice stayed level. "Did you read it?" "She flipped the pages," he admitted. "Pointed where to sign. Your mom said we didn't need drama." That phrase again. We don't need drama. "Do you have copies?" I asked. "No," he said softly. She took the folder. I looked around my new apartment. Half unpacked boxes, the faint hum of the refrigerator, the quiet of a place that didn't know my history. Okay, I said. We slow this down. I asked if anyone else had been at the house recently. Someone neutral. He hesitated. Your Aunt Linda stopped by before Thanksgiving, he said. Your mother didn't want her involved. That told me enough. I'm calling her, I said. Linda picked up on the second ring. Honey, she said, already concerned. I was wondering when you'd call. You were there before Thanksgiving? I asked. I was, she said, and I saw things I didn't like. She described a man with a tablet walking through the living room, measuring, taking notes. She'd seen a thick folder on the counter. Tabs, legal words in bold, estate, deed, POA. And there was an envelope, she added quietly. Windowed. I didn't open it, but I could read the line through the plastic. What did it say? I asked. Notice of default. I didn't speak for a moment. In the background of my call with Dad, I could still hear my mom pacing. Melissa's voice lower now, controlled. I need you to do something tonight, I told Linda. Tell me. Go back over there. No confrontation. Just take pictures, envelopes, documents, anything with a date. Then call me. She didn't hesitate. I'm grabbing my keys. As we hung up, my phone buzzed again. A text from Melissa. Stay out of this. You left. I read it twice. Then I put the phone face down, and I waited. Linda called me 23 minutes later. She didn't say hello. I'm parked around the corner, she whispered. I got pictures. I sat down at the small kitchen table in my rental. The chair made a soft scrape against the floor. I kept my tone even. Tell me what you see. There's a yellow envelope from the bank, she said. Certified mail, 3 weeks old. Your mom signed for it. 3 weeks. And? I asked. There's a sticky note on the fridge, she continued. Melissa's handwriting. Locksmith, Tuesday 9 a.m. I closed my eyes for a second. Not the bank. Melissa. My other line started ringing. Dad again. I switched over. She's back, he said, breath tight. She's saying she'll handle it because you won't. Put me on speaker, I said. There was movement, a hollow shift in sound. My mom's quick breathing, a chair leg dragging across tile. Melissa's voice came through smooth and controlled. So, she said lightly, you decided to get involved. Why is there a locksmith scheduled? I asked. That's not your concern, she replied. You moved. You made your choice. I moved after you told me not to come home, I said. That doesn't remove me from Dad's life. Silence for a beat. Mom cut in, voice trembling. Please don't start this tonight. Your father is stressed. That's exactly why we're talking, I said. Dad, did you sign a power of attorney? A long pause. Yes. Did you sign anything about the house? The deed? Mom's voice jumped in quickly. Frank, no, it was just paperwork, Dad said quietly. Melissa said it would make things simple. Simple for who? I asked. Melissa exhaled slowly, the way she does when she's irritated but trying not to sound it. I'm protecting them, she said. You're not here. Someone has to manage things. Managing isn't secrecy, I said. Managing isn't changing passwords or taking copies. That's because he gets confused, she replied. Mom panics. You wouldn't understand. You left. There it was again. You left. I didn't argue the point. I shifted. Dad, I said, calm and steady. Tomorrow morning you go to the bank in person. With Aunt Linda. Not Melissa. Bring your ID. Ask for a full printout of every account, every loan, every line of credit. Ask what documents they have on file. Melissa let out a soft laugh. You think one visit fixes this? Yes, I said, because he owns the house. The room went quiet. Dad's voice was small. Am I in trouble? No, I said gently. Not if we move now. My phone buzzed. A photo from Linda. I opened it. Clear image. Bank logo. Notice of default. Foreclosure action may commence if not cured within 10 days. 10 days. They'd known for 3 weeks. Linda, I said, switching lines again. Stay there tonight. Don't leave Dad alone with her. I'm not going anywhere, she replied. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling for a moment. My new employee orientation was circled on my calendar in red for the next morning. I looked at it, then at the legal pad on my table. I didn't feel anger. I felt structure forming. Dad, I said, clicking back over, we're getting a lawyer. I didn't sleep much that night. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open. I made notes, dates, when the default notice was mailed, when it was signed for, when the power of attorney was notarized, when I'd been told not to come home. Patterns matter, timelines matter. At 7:32 a.m., Linda called from her car. I picked him up, she said quietly. Your mother tried to block the door. Is he okay? He's embarrassed, she said, but he's here. I stayed on speaker as they walked into the bank. I could hear the automatic doors open, the low hum of a lobby, the ordinary sound of people starting their day. A banker's voice came on the line, calm, professional. Mr. Dawson, I'll need to verify a few things. Dad answered the security questions. His voice shook at first, then steadied. A pause while she typed. Then she said it. There is an active home equity line of credit attached to your property. The last 2 payments were missed. Dad let out a sound that wasn't quite a word. I didn't open that, he said. Linda's voice came in firm. He did not. The banker continued carefully. We also have a power of attorney document on file authorizing your daughter to conduct financial transactions. My hands stayed folded on the table. Can you print the POA? I asked. If Mr. Dawson requests it? Print it, Dad said. Paper slid across a counter. Linda read quietly. It's notarized. Of course it was. Dad, I said, did Melissa bring the notary to the house? Yes, he whispered. She said it was routine. Routine. The banker confirmed the line of credit had been opened shortly after the POA was filed. The pieces aligned without emotion. I wrote down the account number, the balance, the payment history. When they stepped away from the counter, I said, next step. We consult an attorney before anyone else. Linda didn't hesitate. I already called Reynolds and Parker, she said. They can see us at noon. I closed my laptop gently. This wasn't about arguing with Melissa anymore. It was about documentation, and I intended to move carefully. Then I waited for the next call. By noon, Dad was sitting in a small conference room that smelled faintly of coffee and paper. I stayed on speaker, my phone flat on the table in front of me. The attorney, Mr. Parker, spoke in an even tone. Not dramatic, not alarmed, just experienced. Frank, he said gently, if you are competent, you can revoke a power of attorney at any time. That document gives authority. It doesn't remove ownership. Dad exhaled slowly. I didn't understand what I was signing, he admitted. That happens, Mr. Parker replied. What matters is what we do now. I didn't interrupt. I listened. The attorney asked for specifics. When the POA was signed, who was present, whether Dad felt pressured, whether copies were provided. Each answer built something. Structure. Then Mr. Parker said, first, we revoke the power of attorney in writing, properly witnessed and notarized. Second, we deliver that revocation to the bank immediately. Third, we request a full accounting of every transaction made under that authority. He paused. If funds were misused, we address that formally. No emotion, just steps. I wrote them down. Dad signed the revocation with a hand that trembled but didn't stop. The notary stamped it, paper against wood, a clean, final sound. The first shift had happened, not loudly, not dramatically, just legally. Mr. Parker asked for copies of the home equity line of credit. The statements showed withdrawals, transfers, dates, all after the POA. Were these funds used for your benefit? The attorney asked. Dad was quiet. I don't know, he said honestly. Linda answered more firmly. No. Mr. Parker nodded. We'll request documentation of where those funds went. If repayment is necessary, we'll formalize it. Dad sounded smaller when he asked, Am I in trouble? No, the attorney said calmly, but someone may have taken advantage of your trust. The phrase settled into the room without heat. Before they left, Mr. Parker made one more call. He dialed Melissa. She picked up quickly. Bright tone, almost cheerful. Hi, is this about Dad? I've been handling everything. Mr. Parker didn't raise his voice. Ms. Dawson, your father has revoked your power of attorney effective immediately. The bank will be notified today. We are requesting a full accounting of any transactions conducted under that authority. There was silence. Then Melissa's voice cooled. You can't just undo this. It has already been done, he replied. I stayed quiet. She shifted tactics. He left, she said. He moved away. I stayed. I handled the bills. I let the attorney answer. Handling bills does not include opening credit without full understanding, he said. Melissa's breath sharpened slightly. You're overreacting. No, Mr. Parker said evenly. We are establishing clarity. There was a long pause. Then she said something that told me more than anything else. Fine, I'll pay it back. On a written schedule, he replied, and no further financial authority. The call ended. Dad's breathing was slower when he spoke again. There's something else, he said quietly. My pen paused over the page. What is it? I asked. He hesitated. She had us sign something about the house. The room seemed to narrow. What kind of document? Mr. Parker asked. Dad looked down, voice almost embarrassed. She said it was a quitclaim deed, to avoid probate. Linda inhaled sharply. Mr. Parker didn't react outwardly. Was it recorded? He asked. He stepped out to make a call. A few minutes later, he returned. It has not been recorded. I let out a slow breath I didn't realize I was holding. That means it is not finalized, he continued, but it suggests intent. Intent mattered. A power of attorney, a line of credit, a deed prepared but not yet filed, a locksmith scheduled. It wasn't chaos. It was a plan. Dad's voice cracked. I raised her. How did I not see it? I didn't scold him. I didn't comfort him with false softness. You see it now, I said calmly. That's what matters. Mr. Parker outlined additional protections. Revocation filed immediately. Written notice to the bank freezing new borrowing. Formal demand for transaction history. Notification that any attempt to record a deed would be contested. Each step tightened the frame. By late afternoon, the revocation had been delivered to the bank. The home equity line was frozen pending review. Melissa no longer had authority on paper. That was the first power shift. Not emotional, administrative. Before they left the attorney's office, Mr. Parker looked at Dad. You need boundaries going forward, he said. Verbal agreements are not enough. Dad nodded slowly. I could hear something different in his voice when he said, okay. Not panic, awareness. That evening, Melissa showed up at the house. Linda texted me first. She's here. Then my phone rang. Dad's number. I answered. She wants to talk, he said. Put me on speaker, I replied. There was movement. A door closing. Footsteps. The quiet hum of the kitchen. Melissa spoke first. This is getting dramatic, she said evenly. Dad didn't shout. He didn't argue. He stood. I could hear it in his posture. No, he said. I let you handle things because I hated conflict, and you used that. For a moment there was silence. Then Melissa turned to me. You left, she said again. I didn't raise my voice. You told me not to come, I said. You said the guest list was final. The room held still, and this time, I didn't feel like the spare daughter. I felt like the only one who had read the paperwork. Then Melissa said something I hadn't expected. Because you ask too many questions. I let that sit there. Questions are not chaos. They are clarity. And clarity was exactly what we had now. The next move would not be emotional. It would be structured. Then I waited. That night, I didn't argue with her. I didn't defend myself. I let the silence do its work. Melissa eventually left. The front door closed. The house settled. Linda stayed. Dad called me back once the kitchen was quiet. I didn't know about the line of credit, he said. I didn't know about the deed. I know, I replied. There's a point when emotion stops being useful. That night was that point. Here's what we're going to do, I said. I grabbed my legal pad. Step 1, I continued. You change every password, bank accounts, email, utility logins, everything, in person if possible. He nodded, even though I couldn't see him. Step 2, you request written confirmation from the bank that the POA is revoked and the line of credit is frozen. Okay, he said quietly. Step 3, you gather every piece of mail from the last 2 months, even junk. We review dates. Structure creates calm. He sounded steadier already. The next morning, Linda texted me photos of stacks of envelopes laid out across the dining table. Postmarks, certified mail slips, statements. One envelope stood out. Final notice before acceleration. It had been opened. No one had told me. I didn't react outwardly. I just wrote down the timeline. Default notice signed for on the 3rd. Line of credit opened on the 7th. First withdrawal on the 9th. Thanksgiving uninvite on the 12th. Locksmith scheduled the following week. It wasn't random. It was sequencing. Around noon, Mr. Parker emailed copies of the revocation receipt and bank acknowledgement. Clean. Official. Then he sent one more note. We recommend sending formal written notice to your daughter regarding unauthorized financial activity and repayment schedule. I forwarded it to Dad. Do we have to send that? He asked. Yes, I said calmly. Because this isn't about family feelings anymore. It's about records. Silence isn't weakness. It's preparation. That afternoon, Melissa sent me a text. You're making this bigger than it is. I didn't respond. 10 minutes later, another one. Mom is upset. Dad is confused. This isn't helping. Still, I didn't respond. Then she called. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was controlled but sharper now. You think you're fixing something, but you're tearing this family apart. I put the phone face down. Facts don't tear families apart. Hidden debt does. At 4 p.m., Dad called again. She wants to come over tonight, he said. Is the attorney available? I asked. Yes. Then we don't meet alone, I said. We meet in a controlled space. So that evening, they met at Mr. Parker's office, not in the kitchen, not at the dining table, across a conference table with documents between them. I stayed on speaker again. Quiet. Mr. Parker began. Melissa, your father has revoked your authority. The bank has frozen the line of credit. We are requesting a complete transaction history. She didn't explode. She adjusted. I was helping, she said calmly. They were behind. I handled it. With borrowed funds? The attorney asked. She didn't answer directly. Dad spoke before I could. You changed our passwords, he said. His voice wasn't loud. It was clear. You opened credit. You brought a notary to my house. You scheduled a locksmith. Melissa leaned back in her chair. I could hear it. You're acting like I stole something. We are reviewing transactions, Mr. Parker replied. If funds were used for personal benefit, repayment will be required. There was a long pause. Then Melissa said something different, not defensive, not sharp, I needed help, she said. No one responded immediately. I didn't think you'd say yes, she added. Dad's voice lowered. You didn't ask. That was the first honest exchange. Not loud, not dramatic, just factual. Mr. Parker slid a printed document across the table. Repayment agreement, scheduled installments, no future authority, no new credit in their names without written consent and third-party verification. Melissa stared at it. You really don't trust me, she said. Trust isn't a feeling, it's behavior. Dad answered her calmly. You didn't give me copies. That was it. No yelling, no lecture, just that sentence. She signed, the pen scratched across paper, quick, controlled. Mr. Parker collected the documents and made copies for everyone. Procedure creates protection. When the meeting ended, Melissa left without hugging anyone. Dad didn't chase her. Mom didn't cry. Linda stayed for dinner. They ate quietly. That night, Dad called me once more. It feels strange, he said. What does? I asked. Having rules. I understood that. Rules don't mean distance, I said. They mean clarity. He was quiet for a moment. I should have listened to you sooner, he added. I didn't take that bait either. We're listening now, I said. That was enough. The next morning, the bank confirmed in writing that no deed had been recorded. The property remained fully in Dad's name. The locksmith never showed up. Because once authority was revoked, urgency disappeared. Control had depended on speed. Speed was gone. Order had replaced it. And that changed everything. Then something unexpected happened. Mom called me alone. Mom rarely calls me directly. She usually texts first, or asks Dad to pass the phone. So when her name lit up alone on my screen, I stepped outside onto my apartment balcony before answering. The air was cool, traffic low in the distance. I wanted to talk without anyone else listening, she said. Her voice wasn't frantic this time. It was tired. I'm listening, I replied. She didn't jump into defense. She didn't explain Melissa. She just said something I hadn't expected. I made you the easy one. I leaned against the railing. What do you mean? I asked, even though I understood. You didn't demand things, she said. You didn't cry or shout, so I let her take more space. I let her be louder. She paused. And when you asked questions, it felt like pressure. So I shut you down instead of her. There it was. Not dramatic, not poetic, just honest. I didn't rush to comfort her. Mom, I said calmly, I wasn't asking questions to hurt anyone. I was asking because things didn't add up. She inhaled slowly. I know that now. There was a soft clink of a mug against the counter on her end. I didn't understand the paperwork, she continued. Melissa said it was temporary. She said it was easier if she handled it. I didn't want conflict, so I said yes. Avoiding conflict can look peaceful. It can also create damage. I'm not angry, I said carefully, but things have to change. She didn't argue. I know. Later that afternoon, Melissa texted me. We need to talk, just us. I didn't answer right away. Silence isn't punishment. It's space to decide. Finally, I responded. Public place, tomorrow, noon. She agreed. We met at a small cafe near my office, neutral ground, quiet background music, the smell of roasted beans and warm bread. She arrived 5 minutes early, dressed neatly, controlled posture. I sat down across from her. For a moment, neither of us spoke. She folded her hands on the table. You went nuclear, she said evenly. No, I replied. I went procedural. She let out a short breath through her nose. You could have talked to me first. I did, I said, when you told me not to come for Thanksgiving. That landed. She looked down at the table. I needed the money, she said finally. My consulting contract ended. I didn't want to tell them. They already think I fail too much. I didn't rush to fill the silence. So you opened a line of credit in their name, I said calmly. I was going to pay it back. she replied. Without telling them. Her jaw tightened slightly. I didn't think you'd understand, she said. I don't, I answered. Not angry, not loud, just factual. She leaned back in her chair. You've always acted like you're above this, she said, like you're the responsible one. I am responsible, I said. That's why I'm here. That was the difference between us. She operated on urgency. I operated on sequence. She tried another angle. You left, she repeated. I met her eyes. You told me to. Silence again. The cafe door opened and closed. Cups clinked. Someone laughed at another table. Life continued. I didn't want you there, she admitted quietly. You ask questions. You see patterns. I needed it to move fast. There it was. Not hatred, efficiency. Control depends on speed and silence. Questions slow it down. Speed isn't the same as help, I said. She looked tired now, less polished. I'm paying it back, she said. Yes, I replied. On schedule, with documentation. She nodded. I won't touch anything else, she added. Good. There was no hug, no dramatic apology, just a boundary. Before we stood up, I added one more thing. You don't get to call me the problem anymore. She didn't argue. She just said, okay. When I walked back to my car, I didn't feel victorious. I felt organized. That evening, Dad sent me a photo. Bank alerts activated. Dual authorization required for any future borrowing. Account statements printed and filed. He had written the word copies across the top of a folder in his careful handwriting. I saved the image. Because that was the real confrontation. Not the cafe, not the conference room. The confrontation was with confusion, and confusion had lost. But there was still one document left to address, the unrecorded deed, and we weren't finished until that was neutralized. Then I waited for Mr. Parker's next update. Mr. Parker called the next morning. His tone was the same as always, measured, practical. We've reviewed the quitclaim deed your father mentioned, he said. It was signed but never recorded. That's important. I sat at my desk, blinds half open, a legal pad in front of me. What does that mean exactly? I asked. It means ownership has not changed, he replied. Recording makes it enforceable against third parties. Without that step, it's incomplete. Incomplete. That word felt steady. He continued. We are drafting a formal notice stating that any attempt to record that deed will be contested. Additionally, we are filing an affidavit affirming that the document was signed without full understanding of its effect. Procedure again. No yelling, no courtroom drama, just paper. Later that afternoon, Dad and Mom met with Mr. Parker again to sign the affidavit. Linda was there, witnessed, documented. Mr. Parker also requested a full accounting from the bank, showing every transaction tied to the home equity line of credit. 2 days later, the statement arrived. Withdrawals totaling just under $60,000. Transfers made to an account in Melissa's name. The timeline matched the week before Thanksgiving. The numbers did not accuse. They simply existed. Mr. Parker sent a formal repayment schedule requiring automatic monthly payments directly to the line of credit. No handoffs, no informal promises, automated. Melissa signed the repayment agreement without further protest. When the first automatic payment posted, Dad texted me a screenshot. Payment received. He added one line, "It's working." The bank confirmed the line of credit was frozen from future borrowing unless Dad appeared in person with identification and dual authorization. Passwords were changed, security questions reset, paper copies stored in a fireproof box. The locksmith appointment came and went without incident. No one showed up. Because once the POA was revoked and the deed challenged, there was no authority left to act. Speed had depended on secrecy. Secrecy was gone. A week later, Mr. Parker filed a simple but final letter confirming the deed would not be recorded and advising Melissa that any attempt to transfer ownership would be considered fraud. That letter closed the loop. Not emotionally, legally. Mom called me that evening. "The house is still ours," she said quietly. "Yes," I replied. "I should have asked more questions," she added. "We ask them now," I said. Dad got on the phone next. "I feel clearer," he said, "like I can breathe again." There was no dramatic reconciliation. Melissa began therapy, according to Mom. She kept to the repayment schedule. She did not request access again. Our family didn't snap back into perfection. It shifted into structure. The next holiday was smaller, truly smaller. No extended relatives, no crowded tables, just the four of us and Linda. We didn't pretend nothing had happened. We didn't rehash every detail either. Dad carved the turkey slowly. Mom kept the oven timer close. Melissa brought a pie and set it down without commentary. At one point, she looked at me and said, "Thank you for not letting it spiral." I nodded. That was enough. I stayed in my new city. I kept my transfer. I visited with boundaries. When I go home now, I don't check for locksmith notes on the fridge, but I do glance at the mail stack. Not because I'm suspicious, because I understand how small things become large when no one looks at them. The house still belongs to my parents. The accounts are monitored. The deed remains unrecorded, and every payment posts on time. Order didn't erase what happened. It replaced confusion with clarity, and that was the real resolution. The rest was just maintenance. Then, a few weeks later, I found myself standing in my own kitchen again, washing a coffee mug. Quiet, normal, and finally, steady. Then I put the phone face down, and I let the silence stay calm. A few weeks after everything settled, I drove home on a Sunday afternoon. No emergency, no documents, just a visit. The house looked the same from the outside. Same mailbox. Same slight dip in the driveway where the concrete never quite set evenly. Inside, it felt different. Not tense, not loud, just organized. Dad had labeled a small metal file box and placed it on the shelf in the hallway closet. I noticed it without him pointing it out. "Important," it said in black marker. Mom was making tea. The kettle clicked off softly. The smell of chamomile filled the kitchen. We sat at the table. No one rushed to fill the silence. Melissa came in a little later. She set her bag down carefully. She looked at me and held eye contact longer than she used to. "I made my payment," she said quietly. "I saw," I replied. No sarcasm, no praise, just acknowledgement. After dinner, I helped Dad replace a dim light bulb in the hallway. Simple task. Ladder, twist, done. He stood at the bottom of the ladder, holding it steady. "I should have asked you to look at those papers," he said, not looking up. "You can ask me now," I replied. He nodded. That was the shift. Not dramatic forgiveness, not emotional speeches, just new habits. Before I left that night, Mom handed me a folder, copies, bank confirmations, revocation notice, the affidavit about the deed, payment schedule, everything in order. "I want you to have them too," she said. I didn't argue. I slid the folder into my bag. On the drive back to my apartment, the highway was quiet. The sky had that deep blue color that only shows up right after sunset. I didn't feel like the hero of anything. I felt like someone who had finally stopped confusing peace with silence. Back home, I made tea. I wiped down my kitchen counter. I checked my calendar for the week. Routine is grounding. I put my phone face down on the table. And for once, I didn't expect it to ring with a crisis. Before all of this, I used to think family problems were about personalities. Now I understand they're often about paperwork, about timing, about who is willing to ask one more question. Since then, 2 different coworkers have quietly mentioned situations with aging parents and siblings handling everything. When they do, I don't lecture. I just tell them one thing: keep copies, ask early, slow things down. It's not dramatic advice, but it works. If you've ever been the quiet one in your family, or the one who sees patterns a little too clearly? You probably understand this story more than you expected to. If this resonated with you, take a moment to like and subscribe. It helps more than you think. And I'm always curious. Comment below with the city you're watching from and what time it is where you are right now. I read those. There are 2 stories coming up next that a lot of people have connected with. If you're in the mood for something steady and real, stay with me.